Joe Hendry just got destroyed, and the Vanity Project has officially declared war on NXT in the most shocking attack of 2025. What is up, Suplex Rumble family? Welcome back to the channel where we break down the most jaw-dropping moments, the most explosive attacks, and the game-changing developments that have the wrestling world absolutely buzzing. If this is your first time here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on those notifications, because we cover all the biggest NXT stories the moment they happen. And for my day ones who've been rocking with us, drop a say his name in the comments and let me know if you saw this coming. Today, we're diving into one of the most chaotic and shocking segments in recent NXT history. Joe Hendry, one of the hottest names in professional wrestling right now, the man whose entrance has become a global phenomenon, just got absolutely laid out by the Vanity Project in what appears to be a full-scale hostile takeover of the NXT brand. This wasn't just an attack. This was a statement. This was a declaration. And the entire landscape of NXT just shifted in a massive way. So let's break down exactly what happened, why it matters, and what this means for the future of WWE's developmental brand. Before we get into the absolute chaos that went down, let's talk about Joe Hendry and why this attack is such a massive deal for NXT. Joe Hendry has become one of the most unique and captivating performers in all of professional wrestling. For those who might not be fully familiar with his journey, Hendry made his name on the independent circuit and particularly in TNA wrestling, where he developed this incredible character that blends charisma, entertainment, and legitimate in-ring ability. But here's what makes Hendry special: his entrance has become a cultural phenomenon. The "I Believe in Joe Hendry" song and sing-along has transcended wrestling. You've got entire arenas, regardless of promotion, chanting his name and singing his theme. It's become one of those rare moments in wrestling where something catches fire with the audience in an organic, unstoppable way. When Joe Hendry started appearing in NXT, it was a huge deal. Here's a guy who built himself into a star outside of the WWE system, who brings an instant connection with crowds, and who represents exactly the kind of charismatic, versatile performer that NXT has always been about developing and showcasing. His presence in NXT has been electric. Every time his music hits, the crowd erupts. Every match he's in has this special energy because the audience is invested in his success. He's become one of those performers who feels like a star the moment you see them, and that's incredibly rare. So when someone targets Joe Hendry, they're not just attacking another wrestler, they're attacking one of the most beloved performers in NXT, someone who represents everything positive about wrestling fandom and organic star-making. And that's exactly why the Vanity Project chose him. Now let's get into what actually went down on NXT, because this was absolutely brutal and meticulously executed. The show was building toward what should have been a featured segment with Joe Hendry. He was scheduled for a backstage interview about his upcoming plans in NXT, talking about potential championship opportunities and who he wanted to face next. Standard stuff, setting up future programs, letting the audience know what's next for one of their favorites. Joe was in the middle of this interview, doing what he does best, being charismatic, confident, and connecting with the audience through the camera. He was talking about believing in yourself, about making the most of opportunities, really embodying that positive energy that has made him so popular. And then the lights flickered. That's when you knew something was about to go down. The interviewer looked confused, Joe's expression changed, and before anyone could react, the Vanity Project attacked from everywhere. Miles Bourne and Tavian Heights came from both sides, blindsiding Hendry with absolutely vicious shots. We're talking calculated, aggressive strikes designed to take someone out immediately. There was no posturing, no talking, this was pure violence with a purpose. Joe tried to fight back, and you have to give him credit, he didn't go down easy. He threw hands, he tried to create separation, but the Vanity Project had the numbers advantage and they had clearly planned this attack down to every detail. They drove Hendry into the production equipment, slamming him against road cases and equipment crates. The sound of the impacts was sickening. Camera operators were scrambling, backstage personnel were trying to figure out what to do, and the Vanity Project just kept coming. Miles Bourne hit this devastating running knee strike that sent Hendry crashing into a stack of storage containers. And just when you thought it might be over, Tavian Heights pulled Joe up and delivered a spinebuster directly onto the concrete floor. The impact echoed through the backstage area. But here's where it gets even more intense: they weren't done. Bourne grabbed a production chair, not a steel chair, mind you, but one of those heavy-duty crew chairs, and absolutely smashed it across Hendry's back as he was trying to get to his feet. Joe collapsed in a heap, and that's when the Vanity Project stood over him, surveying the damage they'd done. The camera caught this chilling moment where both men looked directly into the lens, no remorse, no hesitation, just cold calculation. This wasn't about settling a score, this was about sending a message to everyone in NXT. Finally, security and other wrestlers started flooding the backstage area, forcing the Vanity Project to retreat. But the damage was done. Medical personnel immediately rushed to Joe Hendry's aid as he lay motionless on the concrete floor. The final shot before they cut away was Hendry being checked on by trainers, clearly in bad shape, while in the background you could see the Vanity Project backing away with these satisfied, sinister expressions. They got exactly what they came for. For those who might not be completely familiar with the Vanity Project, let's talk about who these guys are and why they're positioned as such a dangerous force in NXT. Miles Bourne and Tavian Heights are two incredibly talented performers who have been making waves in NXT with their aggressive, no-nonsense approach. They're not your typical pretty boy heel team despite the Vanity name. These guys are legitimate athletes who back up their talk with serious in-ring skills. What makes the Vanity Project dangerous is their combination of technical ability, raw power, and tactical intelligence. They don't just rely on one style. They can wrestle, they can brawl, they can outthink you. That versatility makes them unpredictable and extremely difficult to prepare for. Their gimmick revolves around this idea that they are the epitome of what professional wrestlers should be: physically imposing, mentally sharp, and absolutely ruthless in their pursuit of success. They look down on performers who rely on gimmicks, catchphrases, or crowd connection rather than pure wrestling ability. And that's exactly why they targeted Joe Hendry. Think about it, Joe Hendry's entire appeal is built on audience connection, on a catchy entrance, on making wrestling fun and entertaining. He's the complete opposite of the Vanity Project's philosophy. To them, Hendry represents everything wrong with modern wrestling: style over substance, entertainment over athleticism, popularity over skill. Of course, anyone who's actually watched Joe Hendry wrestle knows he's incredibly talented in the ring, but the Vanity Project sees the singing and the audience participation as beneath what wrestling should be. This ideological clash is what makes this feud so compelling. The Vanity Project has been building momentum in NXT for months, taking out other teams, making statements, and positioning themselves as the most dangerous duo in the brand. But attacking someone as beloved as Joe Hendry? That takes things to an entirely different level. They're not just fighting for championships or recognition, they're fighting for their vision of what NXT should be. So what does this attack mean for NXT going forward? What are the immediate and long-term implications of the Vanity Project taking out Joe Hendry in such a decisive, brutal fashion? First and foremost, we have to talk about Joe's status. The attack was presented as legitimately devastating. In storyline terms, Hendry is going to be out of action, at least temporarily. This creates immediate sympathy and investment from the audience. Everyone wants to see him get revenge. Everyone wants to see him come back and make the Vanity Project pay for what they did. This is classic wrestling storytelling, but it's effective because it's being done with performers the audience genuinely cares about. When Joe Hendry returns, and he will return, the crowd reaction is going to be nuclear. The pop is going to be massive, and WWE knows it. For Miles Bourne and Tavian Heights, this attack establishes them as the most dangerous heel act in NXT. They're not just guys who talk tough, they took out one of the most popular stars on the brand in decisive fashion. That gives them instant credibility and heat with the audience. But here's the thing about being a top heel in WWE: eventually, you have to pay for your actions. The more heinous the act, the bigger the eventual comeuppance has to be. The Vanity Project just painted the biggest target possible on their backs, and that's going to lead to some incredible matches and moments. This attack doesn't just affect Hendry and the Vanity Project, it affects everyone. Other babyfaces in NXT are going to want to step up. This could lead to alliances forming, to other wrestlers coming to Hendry's defense, to a whole web of interconnected storylines. Imagine guys like Wes Lee, or J. Yvonne Evans, or other top NXT stars deciding they need to shut down the Vanity Project before they strike again. Imagine tag teams in NXT viewing this as a warning that they could be next. The ripple effects of this attack create storytelling opportunities across the entire roster. Looking ahead, the obvious money match is Joe Hendry versus the Vanity Project in some form. But how do you book that? Is it a 1-on-2 handicap match where Hendry has to overcome the odds? Does Hendry find a partner to even the odds in a tag team match? Do we get singles matches where Hendry has to beat both members of the Vanity Project separately to get full revenge? My personal prediction is that we're building toward a big match at an upcoming NXT Premium Live event. Maybe it's at Stand and Deliver if the timing works out, or maybe it's at another major NXT special. But this is the kind of program that deserves a major stage. There's also the possibility of a stipulation match, maybe a street fight or no disqualification match that allows Hendry to get true payback for the brutal attack he suffered. Given that the attack happened backstage with weapons and environmental hazards, it would make sense for the blow-off match to have no rules. What I find most interesting is what this says about NXT's direction as a brand. They're clearly committed to creating legitimate stars and telling compelling stories that make fans emotionally invested. This isn't just random violence, this is purposeful storytelling that creates heroes and villains the audience can connect with. The wrestling community's reaction to this attack has been absolutely explosive. Social media lit up the moment this segment aired, with fans expressing shock, anger at the Vanity Project, and overwhelming support for Joe Hendry. What's been really cool to see is how unified the response has been. Fans from all different wrestling backgrounds, whether they knew Hendry from TNA, from his independent work, or just discovered him in NXT, all rallied around him. That's the sign of someone who's truly connected with the audience on a deep level. The "I believe in Joe Hendry" chants are going to be louder than ever when he makes his return. The Vanity Project thought they could silence that phenomenon, but all they've done is make it stronger. That's how you create a true babyface comeback story. Looking at what's next, WWE has several directions they can go. Option 1, the slow burn return, keep Hendry off TV for a few weeks, build anticipation, have the Vanity Project continue their dominance, and then have Hendry return at the perfect moment to interrupt their celebration or save someone from a similar attack. Option 2, the immediate response, have Hendry show up next week, injured but defiant, demanding a match with the Vanity Project and refusing to be intimidated or sidelined. Option 3, the rally, build a coalition of NXT stars who are tired of the Vanity Project's actions, with Hendry eventually leading a group of wrestlers and taking them down. Personally, I think option 1 is the way to go. Let the heat build. Let the Vanity Project get more and more arrogant. Let the audience anticipation reach a fever pitch. Then, when Hendry's music hits and he returns, it's going to be one of the biggest moments in NXT this year. I also wouldn't be surprised if this program extends beyond just these 3 wrestlers. Tag team wrestling in NXT is incredibly strong right now, and incorporating other teams into this story could create amazing multi-team matches and dynamics. And there you have it, Suplex Rumble family. The Vanity Project has officially taken over NXT by laying out Joe Hendry in one of the most brutal attacks we've seen in recent memory. What do you think happens next? Will Joe Hendry get his revenge? Are the Vanity Project going to continue their reign of terror? Who else might get involved in this war? Let me know all your thoughts and predictions in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash the like button, subscribe to Suplex Rumble for all your wrestling coverage, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Remember, we believe in Joe Hendry, and we believe in great wrestling storytelling. Until next time, keep supporting these incredible athletes, and I'll catch you.